Hi, I'm Randy Altman with Post Perspective. We're here with HaZ Dulull. Did I get it right?
Wow, you nailed it considering the amount of times. Nice one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, having it written down phonetically helps, I find. So hi, HaZ. We just saw each other in
Hey,
Vancouver
yes.
for SIGGRAPH,
Yes. Yeah,
and
last week, right?
it was
Last third was when was it? Thursday? Oh
it
my
was
God.
it was yeah, it was last week. It seems like a long time ago.
Time
already.
flies. Yeah, I
It
know.
does. So the good thing is you had a ton of stuff happening at the show. I know that you were speaking at, I believe, AWS and also
Yes.
for Wacom. But so for everyone that doesn't know, HaZ is a filmmaker. Your roots are VFX, correct?
Actually, before that, video games and then visual effects and then filmmaking. And now blurring the lines between filmmaking and video games because I'm using Unreal Engine. So yeah.
And we're going to talk about that. So what's
Yeah.
really cool is so SIGGRAPH is your show. You probably feel it in your heart.
Oh my God, so good. Yeah.
Wanted to give you a few days to sort of digest what you saw. So let's talk a little bit about and we're also going to talk about your film Rift, which I know is I think it's an audio post right now.
It will be an audio post in a week's time. Yes.
Okay, cool. But first, let's dig in a little bit about SIGGRAPH and what you saw and what you thought was cool, what you can talk about, because I know that some of it was sort of in the secret room.
Yeah, there was a lot of NDAs, like the stuff with Wacom, for example, which I'm bursting to tell everyone, but I can't. But there's certain people can go in a special room, you'll sign NDAs, and they show you this really cool kit and tech that will be coming out like by Christmas or something. That's one of the cool things about going to places like SIGGRAPH. But the interesting thing, Randy, was because this was like post-pandemic, right? There's this element that everyone was just so happy to be at a conference, right? I mean, the fact that Vancouver is a lovely place and lovely weather and everything, but the fact that, even the way the show was organized, where it was like you had volunteers and everyone, there was just people in every corner of the convention that was ready to help you. And it was just really cool. And everyone's so approachable. I love trade shows. That's the thing, I'm just like, a nerd when it comes to technology. And as a filmmaker, I've got to know what's the next best thing to use, how to make my next movie. So I love trade shows, but SIGGRAPH's got a special place in my heart because it's my first SIGGRAPH I went to, by the way. And also back in 97, 98, I used to read the white papers for SIGGRAPH, and I used to go, one day I'll go to SIGGRAPH. And then as I grew my career, one day I'll go speak at SIGGRAPH. And and that happened last week. So, and thanks to AWS for making that work.
Let's talk a little bit about what you saw maybe on
Yes.
the last day of the show. What was
Mm.
cool? What impressed you that you can speak of?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, a few of those I actually went back to the booth to visit again because I'm like, well, I gotta just check this out one more time. I gotta really ask as much questions. There's a few things. One of them was on an AMD booth. It's interesting because obviously I'm a heavy NVIDIA user, Intel chips, but I know the guys really well. Mike Kriggs, who was demoing there, and Rob, who I've known for years. So it was kind of a reunion, but they were showing me some of the stuff they were doing. Like their graphics cards are like really taken off since the last time I've used them, the new AMD Ryzen. But also what was really cool was that they were showing some of the machine learning stuff being done by the Foundry. And of course, you should know, being in the visual effects industry, being a compositor, got a special place for the Foundry always. And they were showing me rotoscoping being done using machine learning. So they had this footage of this girl walking in slow-mo, hair and clothes, and all the things that you would hate to roto. They fed that through this machine learning algorithm, which is a plugin inside of Nuke. And within I think 20 minutes, it generated the roto. And obviously there's a tear to my eye thinking, oh my God, all those times I spent rotoscoping in my career in visual effects and now machine learning. I mean, that's just scratching the surface. But, I got talking to the guys at AMD and also guys over at Foundry. There's this really incredible machine learning programmer called Merari. I can't pronounce her name, but if she's watching, she knows who she is. And she was just telling me some of the stuff they're doing at Foundry. They're focusing a lot on AI, a lot of machine learning to help facilitate visual effects, so to allow the artists to be more creative and less having to fight technicalities and all the tedious and mundane jobs, hence roto and tracking, right, and match moving. So that really got me thinking, oh my God, that's amazing. But also I then went over to this other booth, and God, you're going to kill me for this, but I totally forgot their name. Plastique, I think they're called. It's a Japanese company, and what they were doing was motion capture using your webcam and video footage. Now, we've seen that already with deep motion and so on, right? But what was really cool is you feed in video with a group of people in there. So me and you could be like playing football or soccer, however they call it in the States, and it will capture and extract an emotion from that video. Or you can have a group of people like just dancing and stuff, and it'll extract an emotion and create motion data out of that. And I was like, mind blown. I'm like, oh my God, this is it. And you know what the interesting thing is, Randy? It's free for now. And then later on when it gets released, it's going to be like $50 a month or something, like, you know, subscription based, you know, per user or per project. And I'm just thinking like, you know, how technology is really helping democratize in terms of like artistry. I mean, I know we've got democratization already with subscription of Adobe being affordable and Resolve being free and Unreal being free. But when you go to these events and you see all the other little guys making stuff and all this technology that's just essentially, here you go, it just blew my mind thinking, oh my God, like we're going to get the next generation of artists that are just going to surpass all the artists that we've seen back in our day. And I'm just so excited that the amount of work that could come out because of this technology. Also, you know, I was having a conversation with the same people there, and we started talking about Midjourney. So have you heard of Midjourney? Is this AI art generative tool, and it's insane. You just type in a bunch of keywords like, I don't know, robot, cat, cityscape, cyberpunk, and just create a bunch of keywords, and you feed it to a bot, because it's all via Discord, and it will generate artwork for you. So now all those times where you're trying to create concept art for pitch material, or as a creative, you're trying to find this visual in your head and doing all this like artist exploration, you can do this with the help of AI. And some of the stuff it's coming out with is like, I would not have thought of that. So all of a sudden now, you know, you're going to see concept art generated by AI, which will feel so unique because it's AI driven, right? So there's like a new genre of artwork now called, you know, AI generative art, which it's just mind boggling. It's just like, oh my God, like what is the future going to be like for creatives? Like the work, the process and everything.
Well, with virtual production as well, you're getting more control over your creative, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So you mentioned the Unreal Engine, and let's talk a little bit about what that gives you as a filmmaker.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, look, back in the day when I would mention animation, so I would go to like every year I would go to studios in LA and do my pitch material and all of that. Say, hey, this is a movie I'm working on. These are a bunch of pictures I have. And whenever I pitch animation, people are like, oh, no, not interested. So expensive. Don't even think about it. Need a big studio, right? And because of the pandemic, and I downloaded Unreal to just do previs. I was just doing previs, Randy. I wasn't making an animated film back in 2019. But I was showing this previs to executives in Los Angeles and just people in general. And they're like, wait, is this an animated film? I'm like, no, that's previs. And they're like, no, we've seen previs. It's usually gray blocky guys sliding across the floor. That is fully rendered with reflections and refractions and shadows and ray tracing and all the stuff that's very expensive in CG. I'm like, no, that's real time. That's in a game engine. And a light bulb moment hit me. I'm like, why are we not making movies this way? And I rang up a few people that I knew. They're like, yeah, we're looking at game engines, but at the moment we're still staying in our conventional Maya Houdini pipeline. So I'm like, this is insane. So when the pandemic hit, I'm like, we're not making live action any sooner. This is back in like 2020. So I'm like, let's go ahead and make our animated feature film. And to say today, I'm like finishing an animated feature film and a video game at the same time is down to the fact that tools like Unreal Engine is just available. But it's not just the tools, Randy. It's also the support you get with the tools. And that just means support from the amazing guys at Epic who do some amazing jobs of supporting creators like myself, which I also get a mega grant, by the way, from them to help me. Yeah, it's not just the tool, but financially, they really help as well. But the community around those tools, like the forums, the Facebook groups, the Instagram posts, where people are all just helping each other out. And one of the cool things that happened at SIGGRAPH was I got to meet those guys in real life. Yeah, there's pictures on, if you go to my Instagram, you see there's pictures of me and Jonathan Winbush, me and Corey Strassenberg, Nick Romanek. All these people, we would for years just be on Facebook groups, like helping each other out when we get stuck just to get through Unreal. So Unreal is, I think it's more than a tool. I think it's become more like a revolution of creatives creating content that doesn't really have any like barriers now. You can just go through and just make your content. And that's like, how cool can you make your content?
Speaking of content, I know that you've made a lot of sci-fi films, but is there a type of film that you haven't made yet that you want to?
Yeah, definitely rom-coms. Oh my God. Like people look at me and go, really? I mean, one of my favorite movies is True Lies. You know, the James Cameron movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, that's an underrated film. I mean, I don't think you'll see James Cameron make a movie like that again, because it was like his one-off comedy action. But I love films like 22 Jump Street. But also rom-coms are really, I know. I think when you make science fiction films that are so dark and so grounded, the ones that I make in a way, you want to switch off and watch something else. And I want to make one of those too. So who knows? We could make a rom-com in Unreal Engine. Could be coming.
The world is your oyster. HaZ, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And, when Rift comes out, we're going to cover it in post perspective.
You get an exclusive for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.